So, welcome to another podcast. There's some strange noises. We've got cats meowing. We've got the washing machine washing mountain bike stuff. And we're eating pheasant backs and salad for dinner, as it's been a pretty full weekend.
Quite.
We did a 12-mile ride around Awenda, which was supposedly on, well, it wasn't supposedly, it was on greens and blues. But the blue trail, I think, has not had any maintenance for probably 2 or 3 years. And then after we got back, I looked back into the history of it, and it probably hasn't had any proper maintenance for maybe 5 years.
Oh, really?
And if we lived up there, I definitely would make that my pet trail to go and, deal with or look at, I think. And if anybody feels like doing it, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Tenanch Loop?
Toanch. Yeah, maybe.
It's the Toanch Loop, and if you park at the 771
Champlain
Road Tiny, there's like a baseball court and dog walking area. You don't have to pay, and then you can kind of access the woods there. And the blue trail starts on the left. It's really hard to see the start.
it's pretty much straight away into, like, what would you say, 15 meters?
Yeah, you go across a horrible sandy.
Oh, I forgot about that part.
You go road, baseball area, road, horrible sand trap that you kind of stop in, and then a left.
Fishtail through.
And you're on this blue trail. And I think if you do the blue trail, the entire circuit, it's about 9 kilometres or something.
9.4.
9.4 kilometres. It's pretty flat. There's lots of little rock things in there, and somebody gave it some love at some point because there's some old features, yeah. And then there's some green trails that are shared, and there's a couple of lakes you can kind of get quite close to that are quite interesting. Fair Lane Lake is one of them, and then the other one doesn't appear.
Is it part of Georgian Bay?
Kettles Lake and Fair Lane Lake. No, they're both.
Oh, we didn't quite make it out. But if you carry on, you can make it out too. Is that Georgian Bay?
Yeah, you can get out to Georgian Bay. And yeah. So, what did you think of it?
I thought it was fantastic. Definitely at the beginning, we almost gave up and turned around and aborted mission because it was so overgrown and not marked at all. But then once we kind of got going, we tried again and got going, and I loved the bushwhacking and not being able to see anything that I was going to hit or ride over. Rocks and roots and branches and the trees down does, I guess at the beginning, if you're just trying to get going and every 2 minutes you're getting off to carry your bike over a huge tree, can be annoying. It's maybe less annoying when you're halfway through your ride and you have to do it 6 times, but c'est la vie.
I find it annoying at the end when I'm tired.
Yep, and there was definitely another session of that. But I was like, this is glorious. Like, absolutely nobody, no one around. And I felt like I was properly bushwhacking in the middle of nowhere. And I quite enjoyed that experience.
It seems that when you go 2 hours anywhere from here, number of people significantly decreases, doesn't it? Like an hour there's often quite a lot of people, but 2 hours, suddenly there's, a lot less people.
Yeah, fair enough. I think also the lack of maintenance on that trail was probably a factor.
Yeah. We had a cool woodpecker that either it was the size of a bear
I
or
was going to say Godzilla.
or it had a very hollow tree because it made a lot of banging noises.
I've never heard a woodpecker peck so loudly or, such an echo from whatever he was pecking on.
No.
And then there was the other super cool bird that, did you ever identify or not
Haven't
yet?
yet. The black and white,
I think he was navy, but...
kind of robin size. That we saw at the start.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So some very cool birds.
It's fair to say that the mosquitoes are back out.
Yep, stopping ain't so much fun now. It's a bit of a panic to get going before they find you.
Although, I don't know if it's a state of mind, and I'm probably going to be proved wrong, but I got bit today. I'm trying to adopt a new philosophy with it, because what normally happens is I get bit and then they itch and I scratch them and they swell up and then they're not very pleasant. So I'm now treating it as a bit of a game, and I'll talk about what I did today in a minute. But I was in the woods. I got bit for quite a long time because I was going down a hill and I could see it stuck on my arm, but I couldn't move my hand because I've had to stop. And
That's brutal.
yeah, so I squashed the mosquito. But the point is, in the past I would have been all itchy and swollen up, but I've just ignored it, and I mean, it's done what yours do, look.
They just disappear if I don't itch them.
So I'm trying a new philosophy, but we'll see. I expect in a week I'll be covered in welts the size of dinner plates because I'll have got all itchy. So we did the Blue Trail out towards the lake, and then we did the Wendell Trail, which is like a big green wide walking stroke cycling trail, which
It's also quite pleasant.
I was going to say, though, anywhere else you did that,
Could be kind of boring.
it would be kind of fine, but there's like chair-sized boulders in the easy trail and quite a lot of roots. All of the elevation, all of the climbing is gradual, which I quite liked yesterday because I picked up some cold and coughing and spluttering. So none of it was particularly hard yesterday, but I mean, the trail riding is hard if you're not used to that, not knowing where you're going thing, but none of the climbs were hard. But there were two significant downs that I actually
I was thinking about those two.
really enjoyed. One that came out of nowhere.
The one that we were on the bushwhacking trail?
Yeah, that suddenly it's like a big flowy downhill trail.
And it was that was so fun. It's like, I think especially because of the factor that you can't really see where you're going.
And then at the end...
Dangerous, but yet not.
Yeah.
Like all very manageable.
And then came back down Kettle Lake Access Road, which is not a road, back to the car park, and I don't know what your feeling on that was. Well, you said your arms were itchy.
Oh, but I'm a weirdo. I just get that when I go down a long hill that's rooty or rocky, or like when there's vibration, it makes my arms feel itchy.
Do this right. You might think that the Kettle Lake Access Road is like an easy stroll, easy ride out, but it's not. I mean, I didn't really touch my brakes, but there were some big old rocks and boulders, and you could certainly come off and hurt yourself if you didn't know what you were doing, and if you didn't realise there were chair-sized boulders under those leaves. So I think it's fine, but just be aware that it could be. It's not a green, in my opinion. I suppose is what I'm saying. So yeah, so that was that. Yeah, so the main reason we went there was because Jessica had a hot tip that there might be morels, and you can talk about the morel story as
Well,
you found them.
I don't know if it was a hot tip. We've known for several years that they have been known to be up in Awenda near the Provincial Park there, and my sister lives up in that neck of the woods, up in Tiny Township, and she did direct us to. In fact, she even sent exact coordinates, which I thought was quite sweet. But we were unsuccessful at her coordinates. However, when we popped out of, which trail was it? One of the green ones? After the blue. Actually, I don't want to tell everybody our spot. Can't do that.
I mean,
anyways, we poked out
onto a road
onto one of the main roads in the park, and I wasn't even necessarily looking at the minute, and boom, the first morel mushroom I have ever found, and I've been on the hunt for, this is year 3. And then very quickly I found 2 more, bang bang, and got my hopes up very, very, very high. And off we went to the secret spot and found absolutely nothing along the way there and or on the way back. So I was quite sad, actually. I was quite childlike about the whole scenario, like a 5-year-old pouting because I didn't get enough candy. But new day, and I'm very pleased that we at least got to find a couple, and we had them for breakfast today, and they weren't small, they were delicious, and the quest marches on. I shall try again.
So we think we're a bit too early.
Which I would have thought that we were too late, but I think there's a lack of rain.
And then there needs to be a wet spell.
Really?
As you'll get the mosquitoes really biting. And then some humidity. And everything is super dry. Like, all the trails are dry, the leaves are dry, everything's kind of
It's
dry
like
and
crunching
crispy.
over ice, actually.
Yeah, so it's too dry for this time of year normally, so we think that's the problem. So we might have to do another dash. There's some more trails up there that I wouldn't mind riding, or even doing that again, knowing what we're getting into, not feeling ill.
That's true. There was 2 other trail centers that we rode in the wintertime up there that were also
Excellent.
quite excellent, and one of them in particular I recall saying that would be fun in the summer.
Yeah. I wonder if there's morels there.
I wonder.
This is the thing now, it is their morels. So
Always a hunt for something.
So it was a long day yesterday. It's a 2-hour drive there, an hour and a half back.
2 hours back.
2 hours back. I discovered Tim Hortons.
Holy smokes. That was a highlight of the day.
They make scones for the English people.
Tea biscuits, they call them.
How the hell a scone made out of pastry and flour can be a biscuit, I do not know. But anyway, tea biscuit.
What would you rate that out of 10?
That was an excellent scone. 9.
Holy shnikes.
And actually,
I'm blown away that you would rate that
10,
scone.
A 10 would be my grandmother, who could make excellent scones. And it is in my dad's mother, not anybody else. Like, it's one of her skills. Cheese scones and fruit scones.
I have had the Tim Hortons scone. Maybe not for like 10 years or something.
But that one was fresh.
I would not rate it a 9. I would say it's not bad. Maybe a 6 is what I would rate that.
A fruit scone with currants in.
And I would actually even argue that the Tim Hortons, them calling it a tea biscuit, is more accurate than calling it a scone.
Let's not get into the English language.
However, on another note, what I would rate from Tim Hortons as a 9
excuse me,
would be, we have discovered Tim Hortons does a pretty darn good Americano.
as long as you crank the shots up.
And again, coffee, everybody has their own taste. This is for my taste. I have no interest in a medium roast. I want it dark, sludgy, thick, and burnt. Which some coffee connoisseurs may not agree with.
Hey, there's a
Anyways,
great brand.
That's my taste, my business. But the Tim Hortons double shot in a small cup, black, that's a solid 9.
Yeah, I would agree. So we we discovered that, and then so that's a new one for me anyway.
When I can't find you, I'm gonna know where to look.
So we drove back, and then yeah, it was a fairly uneventful evening, wasn't it?
Oh, we started laundry at almost midnight.
I'm still doing laundry, and it's 5 o'clock the next day.
Yep.
Different laundry. And then this morning, our 2 amigos,
Kitty cats?
the 2 boys, started shenanigans because they were hungry at like 5:30, and then I think by 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock we threw the towel in and got up, and then I went to Centennial, which I've talked about before. I don't need to talk about that again. I had quite a nice time. There was nobody there. I think everybody was having Sunday dinner. And because of the lack of morels, you went looking for
Pheasant backs.
and found some.
Yeah, I would say at least 10 pounds.
So
Same weight as whatever Seymour weighs. That's how
and that pheasant back season supposedly is the same time as the morel season, but it doesn't seem that the morels are in the city, so we haven't found them. But more to the point is the process that you have to go through once you've found said mushrooms.
Yeah, and I'm halfway through already. I'm on fire tonight.
So do you want to talk a bit about that process, which applies to all of the mushrooms, really?
Yes, but something quite beautiful about the pheasant backs is that if you're careful the way that you collect them, because they do not grow from the ground, you can save yourself a lot of time later on. Your future self will thank you if you are just careful with the way you harvest them and place them in a bag with, not grabbing any leaves or dirt or anything. Bark, actually, more to the point. And pretty much cleaning when I get home, those I have almost next to none to do, which is not how I started. Let me just add that in there. This is a few years later. I'm learning as I go. But generally I use a little brush or a toothbrush, and some mushrooms require a lot of time and are quite tedious to clean, such as the 3 little morels that we found yesterday. Even though I was quite careful, I thought, they were growing out of gravel of all things. There was still, we found a little bit of grit in them because they're very pitted on their cap. And quite delicate too. So, I mean, gosh, and then there's the old, don't even get me started on lobster mushrooms and cleaning. Woo!
Sorry, that's the people that live upstairs that seem to find it impossible to be quiet if you hear something that sounds like an earthquake or a thunderstorm. I guess the one thing I've realised is that the more we can do when we're out, the better it is, really. Particularly if we have the car with us, then...
Yeah.
The more cleaning out in the field, the less grit and dirt and bugs we bring back in.
Yeah, because then that's only step one of the process. And then it's like, well, now what are you doing with them? Because they're not going to be great to hang out for a severe amount of time. I think everybody kind of knows how mushrooms don't hold up super great in the refrigerator. Although, I mean, I do have a couple of tricks and tips for a little bit of help there. But, I mean, like any fresh food, you kind of need to either dehydrate, freeze, cook, do something with it. So it's a bit of a process, but yeah, I'm pleased to say of my Santa Claus sack full of dryad saddles today. I'm already halfway through, which is an achievement for a Sunday evening.
Maybe we do a bit more on the mushrooms once we find another batch somewhere. So anyway, Awenda, that is what this was essentially about. Definitely worth a visit. I will put a link in. We did GoPro some of it today, but I'm not sure how to make that available. I'm not interested in making it available for everybody, so just putting it on YouTube. I might do something if people request a link. I will see how I feel. So
yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, there's an email address associated with the podcast. So if anybody's really keen to see where we went in Awenda, then
we got a lot of footage yesterday.
Share a link once I've edited it, which is the other part of it. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening, and next time, anything to say?
Peace.